All right, I'm going there because there's somebody who wants to say, yeah, okay, maybe you can throw him. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
I follow your work from the Delft Institute for some time.
Who
I'm
are
Mexican.
you? Can you please tell me your name?
Yeah, my name is Mateo Arellano. I'm Mexican, and I'm a blogger, and I talk about water issues across the world. And now one thing that I'm concerned about is the Rio Grande and Rio Bravo basin, which is the United States and Mexico border they share.
Mm-hmm.
How would you extrapolate the learnings from the Nile basin to other contexts, like, for example, the North American basin in the Rio Grande and Rio Bravo dispute when there's such a large economic differences across countries? And also, like, what's the role of an upstream country versus the downstream country, and in that they play in negotiations on those kind of resolutions?
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Good one. What's to learn from the Nile and the upward and downward streaming?
Yeah. Thanks for such an important and big question for which I don't have the full answer, also because I'm not very familiar with the context. Again, what I've learned from and what we are trying to do with colleagues based along the Nile is to try to reverse the narrative. It's not about owning a river and sharing its water, but it's really rethinking how we all belong to the same river while acknowledging differences. And there are, as you say, in the Nile Basin are mostly, I would say, cultural and political and identity differences. In the, of course, there is also the economic, but that's also plays inside each and every country, the economic disparities.
And how do you solve that? Because that's big, and that will be the same in Mexico as well. How do you solve that? That people feel that they own the river.
Or bringing a common perspective together.
Yeah.
I think we should learn one development that I find very interesting and for me promising is the movement that is granting rights to the river.
Yeah.
And
the river itself, you mean?
I watched a very inspiring movie, which I think we were talking about yesterday evening. It's called I'm the River is Me.
Yes.
Which is about a river in New Zealand, which has been granted legal personhood.
Yeah.
And from that movie, canoeing down the river with indigenous leaders, and here you learn that you cannot separate the rights of the river with the rights of the people and the non-humans that are living on the river, because, and that's how we belong to the river.
Yeah, we belong. Carolyn, do you think that humanity is ready for something like that, considering, yes,
I'm
the
just
rights of the river?
If it's me causing this horrible noise, so I'm just kind of, that's why I'm lacking on the shrubbery.
Maybe just, maybe you keep your distance.
I mean, it's very interesting that we're seeing this wave of populism around the world.
Yes.
And it's basically because what was promised is not happening. You know, life's just going to get better and better. Your kids are going to live longer and longer. Everyone's going to have a lovely job, a lovely house. You know, it's just not happening. And the politicians who are prepared to lie and either say it's all their fault over there, or to just say I can make it better because I've got orange skin and yellow hair, and I mean, you know, well, it's.
Who do you mean?
Well, I can't think who that could possibly be. Actually, we've got our own kind of yellow-haired person who also lied to us. But anyway,
yeah, we know.
But you know, I think people are desperate for a new vision, absolutely desperate, and I don't see politicians yet being prepared to say what we need is a new idea of a good life for the 21st century. So basically what they're still trying to flog is the old idea of the 20th century good life, which is based on endless consumption, the world is infinite, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
And, I mean, what I was trying to, 15 minutes is horrible, and that horrible thing. But,
well, you've said that now.
But, you know, what I was trying to sketch in very, very briefly is that I think there is a good life that we could be offering people, which is based on those things I very rapidly went through, you know, the sort of the sense of, you know, individual skill, agency, health, community, closeness to nature, etc., which we saw under COVID.
The same, huh? Yeah.
We saw under COVID some of those things I mean, COVID was very interesting. Some of those things were denied to people that we desperately need, like each other, sociability, nature. But other things were also, you know, not to everybody, but they were restored, like time. Some people, including myself, got time back. And I think there's a sort of just a completely different idea of what a good life looks like that's more about us doing the stuff rather than just buying a new iPhone every 2 years, essentially.
Are there other questions or comments in this academic room, I would say?
There's one right over there.
Yeah, there she is. You have a catch box. Be careful with that.
Hi.
Yeah.
So my name is Paulina. I work as a sustainability specialist.
Could you maybe stand up, please, so we can see you?
I can also stand up.
Yeah, that's nice. Hi there.
I was actually wondering, so it's a question for Carol Steele. Have you, living in London, have you also found a way to incorporate all those, let's say, different aspects of, like, I don't know, getting your food more local, or like, are these also things? Because I feel a lot of times the grand idea is really cool, but then we feel very limited in like implementing it.
Can you maybe tell from your experience of feeling limited?
I guess it takes a lot of community organizing to like get the right people involved, get the time in your schedule to like take more, let's say, to do it slower, but then you also want to do other things, so then you're...
Did you try that personally?
Yes.
Okay.
And
Not
organizing
that easy.
events takes time.
Yeah. Okay. So how is that in London, Carolyn?
I mean, thank you so much for that question. And I think what a lot of people feel is that, you know, if they're going to make a better world, they have to do it themselves, you know, because exactly as you say, the dialogue's not really happening at political level yet, but it is happening at a kind of community level. So what I see in London is, I mean, and it's very notable that it's the most industrialized food nations, as I call it, so the UK, the Netherlands, I'm afraid, you know, the US, where we just went down the kind of the pig shed and the kind of, you know, the tomato shed line and the GM and all the rest of it. That you see also the counter movement. You see people going, this just doesn't work for me. And so, for example, in America, you know, literally 50 years ago, the counter movement began that, you know, you could now say is the seeds of the modern food movement, which is basically saying, you know, that if we get together and do this, we can start to make it's like making an alternative system. So, you know, I have amazing examples. Maybe if you find me in one of the breaks, we can talk about it. But, you know,
you also have amazing examples of where it succeeded a little faster.
Yeah,
because
so
she says it takes a lot of time.
The Liège food belt, for example, is a really interesting. I mean, again, you know, I could have talked at length about very interesting examples, that you know, are really, they're starting to make a difference. They're starting just about to reach that, shall we say, political level of the, you know, the city, etc. And in London as well, we have, you know, there was 2012 growing spaces for the Olympics and stuff. I mean, it's not really addressing the major problem. But things like a sugar tax are starting to do it. So we also had that in the UK.
Is that happening in the UK?
Which was extraordinary for the government because basically the government's terrified of food because nobody likes being told how to eat. So, you know, stuff is happening, but it's patchwork. I'm waiting for, I think things are going to get bad enough quite soon that even politicians are going to see it's going to be a good idea to sort of get re-involved.
You're optimistic.
Oh, I am optimistic. You have to be, otherwise why bother?
Yeah, it's true. and you didn't want to insult people with yellow hair generally, right?
Yeah, I know.
If anyone feels
we need to
insulted.
Definitely deal with them.
Anyone else with a question or maybe a remark? Yes, there. No. Wait, who's faster? Yeah, go. It's good. With the catch box. Okay. Nope. No. Take mine. There you go. Yes, this works.
No, that's okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
So both, thank you very much. I'm Rudy. I'm a research master student in gender studies. And I guess it's a question for both, but it arose specifically in Emanuele's talk when you showed the pictures from the people who are living alongside the Nile River, and specifically the question of resistance or resilience. Because it reminded me also immediately of South Lebanon and the people who are returning to their homes, but their homes is rubble because the Israeli army bombed it. And I wonder if we could think or speak a little bit more about how important resilience is in building a home, but also maintaining the feeling of home. I hope that question is clear.
But yeah, can I please just a little, because resilience is of course very important, and what do you want to know about it from the speakers?
I suppose how you experienced it in your correspondences, but
yes.
also because
Good.
Caroline, you said something on how humans can make a home or make multiple landscapes their own, and how sort of resilience is a part of that.
Right, thank you.
Yeah. Or
Okay.
just a story
Emanuele?
about resilience.
Yeah. Talk to me about resilience, she says.
Yeah.
Yes, can you?
Yeah. What I would like to do, maybe, because you are studying gender studies, that also gives me the opportunity to link resilience to gender, to show how the dialogic conversation works. Because if you look at the 3 photos, in terms of gender, I don't think they were repicturing the river very nicely, because you have a woman standing still,
Yeah.
and playing the role of the victim, of the person who is affected. And then the 2 boys reacting, resilient, offering the solutions in the water sector that often is the case, a masculine, rather masculinity, engineers with yellow helmet bringing the solution. Disclaimer, that was only a picture. If you read the full story, of course, also the lady shows resilience. Of course, she's not standing there. She found a new place where to work. So I think there are different resilience, different ways of continuing the conversation. One way, when we look at those pictures, we realized, hey, we can do better when representing gender and showing the resilience. So now other photographers are trying to look also at to foreground the gender dimension. Do we only have fishermen, or do we have also fisherwomen? How are they resilient? That's the dialogic conversation. It's a conversation that doesn't end with one winning, but allows you to rethink about your perspective and perhaps improve it. And I think that's also resilience.
So, and Carolyn, and from the perspective of resilience in war zones, people recovering from all kinds of, what is the food? What role does food play?
So I did very briefly show 3 pictures of people in crisis. It was the war in London. It was the loss, Soviet Union, collapse of the Soviet Union, which of course Putin's now trying to rebuild, in Cuba, and then the cars disappearing in Detroit. And Naomi Klein's got this term disaster capitalism. So basically, when there's a crisis, the money people move in, and they, it's like after the tsunami in the Indian Ocean, the property developers moved in and just took over the beach. For example, I have another alternative, much more positive term, which is disaster democracy. Because when there's a disaster, it's absolutely phenomenal how people gather together, get strong, say, we're going to do this. And food is absolutely full of these examples. Those were just 3. But I'm sure it's going to happen. It's very moving watching the people coming back to Lebanon, as you say, and they're going, well, my home is rubble, but this is still my home, and I'm going to rebuild. And they're sort of, forgetting the politics, the sense of you can never forget politics, of course, but beneath all of the politics is what people really feel. And we are, unfortunately, as a species, at our best in a crisis. And one of the really fundamental things about, the hunter-gatherers that I showed briefly as well, is that life is constantly about negotiating with the world and with the next group along in the next valley, and you're either friends with them or occasionally you're at war with them, but it's kind of negotiable and it's ongoing. But we have to feel the sense of who we are. And then actually crisis makes us stronger. It makes us remember our real values rather than... There's a very interesting book called basically The Joyless Economy by Tibor Skitovsky, written in the 1970s, but it was about how people in America were just being given too much material stuff and they were forgetting how to actually experience joy. I think it's really interesting. So
Yeah,
COVID showed
too.
us this as well. My neighbours brought me courgette bread around. You know, they'd never done that in their lives before or since. But, you know, that
Joy
sense
of
of community actually happened during COVID. So
Thanks. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that question. Rebecca Nordquist, she will join you on stage. She used to have the microphone to reflect a little on what you just told us. Yeah, go ahead. You can start.
Yeah.
I think we're okay.
Well, many thanks to both of you. I'm looking at this all these conversations that we have this morning. It's already been a thought-provoking morning for me, and also thinking about some of the questions. You know what really struck me in both of these question and answer sessions is the role of neighbors and the role of the people around you, and how you, in a very literal sense, your neighbors bring you courgette bread, or your neighbors on the Nile, how are you going to continue to live with one another in a way that makes each other stronger? Yeah. And what I also sort of wonder is, where do we go from here? So we have cities that have been formed by the way that food is brought in, and we're forming rivers to the way that we want them to act for ourselves. But how do we make cities or homes that encourage more sustainable use of food? Or how do we make rivers that encourage more, or leave rivers alone, that encourage more interactions between people? I think all of these are important messages to think about, and that I would encourage you to discuss more among each other.